She knows who she is.
Today we're actually going to be addressing more the subject of motivating a child, and we'll talk more about motivating a child, about those things that are very, that are often issues, such as homework or responsibilities around the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's a subject for us dear to our heart. We do it a lot.
Yes, we do. It's actually part of our work for our that we give our students at our school, our job list.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We will, I believe we have some special guests today as well.
Yes, we do. We have two of our leadership members with us today, father and daughter, Peter and Ellie, and they're going to be with us in a little while. You got to excuse my voice today. Allergies have taken a toll, This is where we live.
Right, so in case anybody is watching from out of the area, we are right here in the heart of California, in Fresno, California.
Heart of allergy.
Yes.
City.
This is where Zyrtec and Claritin sells very well. Now, so let's go right into our first subject, and that is how to motivate a child and how to make it a little bit easier, how to get a child to follow through more and be interested in that. And you saw a screen come up there for a moment. We're going to hold on to that screen until a moment from now. So now, really, in order to prepare for this subject, we do quite a bit of research on every subject that we deliver, because that's part of our program anyhow, and as part of the Mile High Karate program is we have to get educated on these subjects a lot. Right?
Yes.
So we're constantly reading, and we're constantly being bombarded with materials from everywhere.
Exactly.
But on the whole subject of motivation, there's really, even though children and adults are really inherently motivated by the same thing, we're all motivated by pain and pleasure. And that's really a subject for another different time, a different day.
Taken straight out of Tony Robbins,
Tony
Awaken
Robbins.
the Giant Book. Yes.
Tony Robbins. And the interesting thing there is, as a matter of fact, he makes a point of Mother Teresa and Trump both being motivated by the same force. So in other words, imagine
Yes.
Mother Teresa on one hand and Donald Trump on the other side, and they are motivated by exactly the same force of life. And that's a hard concept for a lot of people
Yes.
to agree with, right? But if you think about it, for Mother Teresa, it would be very painful for her to have thought of herself as a different person, as somebody who wouldn't be helping the poor, for example, somebody who was ignoring that, right? Somebody who was not out there in the trenches. That would have been a painful thought for her, and it had probably to do with her self-image as well. And so that's what drove her to do so, right? And to do the work that she did. Well, Donald Trump has a different perspective on pleasure and pain, but he nevertheless has the same motivation. In other words, he needs to make that next big deal,
Yes,
right? Right, he has a challenge, and he has to pursue that challenge.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't do it, it feels painful to him not to. Right, that's why he does that. Right, but like I said a moment ago, we're going to kind of discuss that subject more in detail on a different day. Lest I get too long-winded here.
Don't worry, I'll cut you off.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's why I'm here.
Now, but what we should think about is that really adults and children do get motivated a little bit differently because of one major factor, and that is long-term thinking versus short-term thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Adults are simply trained much more, just by life itself, to think in terms of long-term. Right? So if you look, let's say, at a college student, let's say it's somebody who's already well focused on a goal. Let's say he wants to become a doctor or something, and he really wants to achieve this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he is probably going to be thinking of the next 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, right?
Yeah,
And
it's putting it.
right, and so for him to be working, let's say, 4 hours a day and studying 4 hours a day besides taking his classes is probably a pleasurable thing. In other words, he's going to be motivated to do it because he's going to see how he's approaching his goal.
Yes, he sees how he's taking steps and getting closer and closer.
Right? Now, that's much more difficult to do with a child. A child isn't really going to think about or consider what's going to happen in 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years.
Are you considering a child anything from a small child to a preteen or teen? Or?
Even preteens have that issue. You're going to notice, and as a matter of fact, that's a lot of times the issue that you have with teenagers, because in many other ways they really come across as being quite adult-like. Right,
Mm-hmm.
they're quite mature. They've learned a lot of things. They're now capable of survival on their own, right? So in large part, but they often don't really have that area developed as much as let's say a 25 or 30-year-old. That's the biggest difference. That they don't think in terms of long-term consequences as much. Right? They're thinking in longer terms as let's say a 10-year-old, but they don't think they don't look at the whole picture as much as a full-grown adult does.
Yeah.
Right. So
We even see that in the school, actually. We try to get the kids to learn goal setting and aim from belt to belt to belt.
Mhm.
And they you see how often they can go, how easy it is for them to go off task.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. And goal setting plays a really, really big part in this, so we're going to talk about that in another show as well. But that's why it's so important also to have short-term goals. And with the children, that's why when we give them belts, for example, it's not just, get your next belt or the next color belt, but there's...
It's that goal, it's that motivation.
Right. And we have the stripes in between,
systems.
right? So they get something almost every week, right? Now, what all that tells us is that really children are primarily motivated by short-term consequences, not by long-term consequences, right? So in other words, a child is more likely to think about today and not so much about next month.
True.
Right? And so now that doesn't mean that you shouldn't teach your child about longer term consequences. And we do that all the time, right? A child is being presented with that in school all the time. If you don't study hard, you're going to not pass your grade, that kind of stuff, right? But that is this point that we're making right now is the very reason why, as a parent, a lot of times you have to create artificial consequences for your child.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Confusing, right?
Yes.
All it is reward and punishment. Right? As a parent, you create specific reward and punishment. Well, that's an artificial consequence. In other words, we made it up. If you don't do your homework, you have to go to your room. Right? That's not so much a life consequence. That's not the child thinking about, what happens if I don't do my homework? It's like, you're going to get punished, or you're going to get rewarded too. But a lot of times it's better to do it in the positive, right? And say like, well, when you do your homework, and if you do it well, right, then we can go out to McDonald's. I don't know.
Okay.
Right? So when trying to motivate your child, that's a very, very important point. And most parents instinctively do that already, obviously, right? But it's important to be aware of that and keep that in mind, right? But there is a second aspect to that, because we don't want to think of children as being mindless, right? They have a natural and inherent desire to learn. A child wants to explore. Even a 2-year-old is already an explorer, right?
Yes.
And children also do want to solve problems. If you look at them play a video game or a game of any sort, right, they're trying to solve problems.
Win games, things like that, yeah.
Exactly, right? And they also want to be a productive member of a group. In a classroom or in a family, they do want to be productive. They might not want to take on all responsibilities, but they want to have some responsibilities, and they want to have something that they can contribute.
Yes.
And, do we have to go to a commercial?
We're getting close to it.
Okay.
I believe you got probably about 3 or 4 more minutes.
All right, fantastic. That's amazing. I usually always get cut off. So
yeah, I haven't been poking you on the side or anything yet. But make sure we do. Are we doing the question of the week now?
We can do it. Give me just I'm going to do the intro to what we're going to do right after the commercial, because what we're going to talk about is homework.
That's a big one.
Homework and maybe also some responsibilities at home. That's a lot of times the 2 biggest issues for most parents, right? So, that since homework is a big problem with a lot of children, a lot of parents, we solve that all the time in our karate school. There are some things that you can do. Okay? And when we come back from the commercial, we're going to explain and define 2 concepts or 2 terms. One of them is achievement point, and the other one is going to be developmental direction. So
another couple of big words there.
Right.
Okay,
So
I'm sure you're going to explain
that's
that.
right. So right now I'm going to leave you all confused on that, what I might mean by that, and so we're going to explain that after we come back from the commercial. So, but we do have.
Yes, we do have our question of the day, or the week,
Question
I
of the
should
day.
say. This is going to revolve around a cartoon, so I'm hoping I'm going to get some response from some of the younger viewers on this. The question is, which cartoon has a Butterfinger-loving character in it? Butterfinger as in the candy.
Which cartoon has a Butterfinger-loving character in it?
And this is what we're giving off. Little jointed bear, very cute. His name is Sascha. Anyways, you can email me at blackbeltparenting@yahoo.com. And whoever's the first one on there, I guess at the end of the show, we'll give out the answer. I gave a pretty easy one this week, so.
It's an easy one if you know your cartoons.
If you know your cartoons.
All right, we're going to a commercial?
Yes, we are.
And we'll be back. Thank you very much.